Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. China retaliate against Trump's trade tyranny with 84% tariff. Israeli strike on Gaza residential buildings kill 29 medic says. Those who misbehaved with Amit Shah on extradition on Tahavur Rana. France could recognize Palestinian state in June, says Macron. Donald Trump announces 90-day pause on tariff for all countries except China. Renewed push for India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. PM Modi addresses people from 108 nations on Navkar Mahamantra Divas. Sharp drop in stocks trigger flight to safety among investors. PV Sindhu makes winning start. Lakshya Sen, HS Pranoy exit from the Badminton Asian Championships. Djokovic exits Monte Carlo in horrible Tabilo defeat. Now let's look at the details. China's finance ministry has announced an 84% tariff on goods imported from the United States, retaliating against the recent levies imposed by the White House. The hike in the tariff from 34% came after Donald Trump's 104% tariff on the Chinese good came into force on Wednesday. They were later increased to 125%. Trump said 21% rise was based on the lack of respect China had shown and that it would be effective immediately. Beijing, which has said that its charges would take effect on the Thursday, would also urge other countries to unite against the Trump's tariff as the country's exporter reel from the crippling new levies. Also, the global unity can triumph over the trade tyranny, declared an editorial in the state-run newspaper China Daily, noting that Beijing's collaboration with the Japan, South Korea and other Asian economies is a must. A separate piece called for the European Union to work with it to uphold the free trade and multilateralism. The United States trade war with China continued to escalate on Wednesday, hours after Trump's highest tariff on a raft of countries came into force. China retaliated with its own 84% levy on the United States import. Also, European market dropped shortly after the announcement, with the FTSE 100 falling by 3.30% and Germany's DAX 4%. Trump later took to his social media platform to say that in return he was upping the United States levies on China to 125%. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of the ripping off the economy of the United States of America and other countries is no longer suitable or acceptable, the United States president wrote. He also announced a 90-day pause on the higher tariff for dozens of countries except China, saying this was because those nations had not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape or form against the United States. Beijing firmly opposes and will never accept such hegemonic and bullying practices, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jiang told the reporters on Wednesday before the latest hike from the Washington. The tariff came at a difficult time for the China's sluggish economy. Domestic consumption remains weak and exports are still a major driver for growth. The sweeping nature of Trump's tariff has also left the Chinese businesses scrambling to adjust their supply chains, with most countries affected. Firms say it's hard to find a way out for this uncertainty. Also, the tariffs will shrink already razor thin profit margins, said the owner of the Chinese business that handles cross-border logistics for the e-commerce as well as air and sea freight. Also, he did not wish to share his name. Also, the higher tariff raised cost for the freight forwarders like us as well as factories, companies and sellers. It just means that everyone earns less. We'll have to see how the issues unfold in a couple of more days to come. At least 29 Palestinians, including children, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a multi-story residential building in the east of Gaza City, a local hospital has claimed. Also, the Hamas-run civil defense agency said warplanes targeted the area near the Al-Hawashim Mosque in the Shajia neighborhood on Tuesday morning. It initially reported that 23 people were killed but warned its first responder were searching for the 24 others under the rubble. In the evening, it announced that 15 bodies have been recovered without giving an updated death toll. The Israeli military said that it had struck a senior Hamas terrorist who was responsible for the planning and executing attacks in the area. Numerous steps were taken to mitigate harm to civilians, including the use of precision weapons it targeted. Also, the military was accused that the Hamas have violated the international laws by the deliberately using of the civilian population as human shields. Video from the Shajia showed that dust-covered bodies of small children being carried away from the rubble by the distraught relatives and rescue workers. Ayub Salim, 65, also told the AFP news agency that the area around the residential building struck on the Tuesday morning was overcrowded with tents, displaced people and homes. He said that it was hit by multiple missiles and that shrapnel flew in all directions. Also, the dust and the massive destruction filled the entire place. We couldn't see anything, just the screams and the panic of the people, he added. It's truly a horrific massacre. Also, Hamas said that the Israeli military had committed a bloody massacre. Thousands of people in the Shajia residence have fled last week after the Israeli military ordered the evacuation of much of the neighborhood, saying it was operating with force to destroy terrorist infrastructure. But residents said that the area struck on Wednesday was not covered by the evacuation order, so many families had remained there. Union Home Minister Amit Shah asserted that the extradition of Tahawoor Rana accused in the 26/11 terror attack is a big success of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government's diplomacy. He also took a real dig at the Congress without taking its name, saying that the government under whose rule the bomb blast took place could not bring him back. Also, Rana, that has been accused of being involved in the 2008 Mumbai terror attack where innocent people were killed, and is also expected to stand trial in India itself. It is the responsibility of the Indian government to bring them back and serve justice and those who was having misbehaving with the land and the people of India under the law of the country. Also, the return of the Tahawoor Rana is a big success of the Modi government's diplomacy, because the government under the rule, the blast that took place did not bring him back, Office of Amit Shah said in the post on the social media platform X. On April 7, the Supreme Court of the United States rejected Tahawoor Rana's plea to stay his extradition to India. Rana filed an emergency application with the Chief Justice Roberts on March 20, 2025, seeking a stay on his extradition. Also, the application for stay addressed the Chief Justice and referred to the court is denied. The SC order dated Monday, 7 April. According to the Mumbai Crime Branch, a case of criminal conspiracy against Rana was originally lodged by the NIA in Delhi following the deadly November 2008 attacks in which over 160 people were killed. The ongoing extradition process pertains to that case. However, officials clarified that it is yet to be determined whether the Mumbai police can seek his custody for any local investigation linked to the attack. Only after examining the grounds of extradition will it be clear whether the custody can be sought by the Mumbai Crime Branch in this matter, sources said. Sources added that the Mumbai police has not yet received any formal communication so far regarding Rana's transfer to the city for questioning or judicial proceedings. Tahawoor Rana, a Pakistani-Canadian national, was convicted in the United States for the banned terror attack and the Lashkar-e-Taiba operatives and for the providing of the material support to the group responsible for the Mumbai attack that killed over 174 people. We'll have to see how the issues unfold in a couple of more days to come. France plans to recognize a Palestinian state within months and could make the move at the United Nations conference in New York in June on the settling of the Israel-Palestinian conflict. President Emmanuel Macron said in an interview broadcast Wednesday that we must move towards the recognition and we will do so in the coming months. Macron, who this week visited Egypt, told the France F television. Our aim is to chair this conference with the Saudi Arabia in June, when we could finalize this movement of the mutual recognition of several parties, he added. I will do it because I believe that at some point it will be right, and because I also want to participate in the collective dynamic, which must also allow all those who defend Palestine to recognize Israel in return, also which many of them also do not do, he added. Such recognition would allow France to be clear in our fight against those who deny Israel's right to exist, which is also the case with Iran, and to commit ourselves to the collective security in the region, he added. France has long championed a two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, including after the October 7, 2023 attack by the Palestinian militants Hamas on Israel. But formal recognition by Paris of a Palestinian state would mark a major policy switch and risk antagonizing Israel, which also assists such move by foreign states are premature. Also, France's recognition of the Palestinian statehood would be a step in the right direction, in line with the safeguarding the rights of the Palestinian people and the two-state solution, Palestinian Minister of State for the Foreign Affairs Warsan Shahin told AFP. Nearly 150 countries recognize a Palestinian state. In May 2024, Ireland, Norway and Spain announced that recognition, followed by Slovenia in June, in moves partly fueled by the condemnation of the Israel bombing of the Gaza that followed the October 7 attacks. But France would be the most significant European power to recognize a Palestinian state, a move the United States has also been long resisting. Also in Egypt, Macron held summit talks with the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the Jordan King Abdullah II, and also made clear that he was strongly opposing to any displacement or annexation in Gaza and Israeli-occupied West Bank. Also, the United States President Donald Trump has suggested turning Gaza into a Riviera of the Middle East, with the Palestinians moving elsewhere, a suggestion that has sparked bitter condemnation. Macron responded that the Gaza Strip was not a real estate project. Simplistic thinking sometimes doesn't help, he added, and in a message to Trump said, perhaps it would be wonderful if one day it developed in an extraordinary way, but our responsibility is to save life, restore peace and negotiate a political framework. Capping a day dominated by back and forth between the United States and China, Donald Trump on Wednesday made two major announcements on tariff, giving all the other countries a breather but doubling down on the tough stance on the Beijing. Also, after the United States raised tariff on China to 104%, Beijing retaliated, announcing that it will impose a levy of 84% on the United States import and up to 34%, marking a significant escalation of the countries and the tariff structure between the countries. The United States counter-strike was swift and also brutal, taking to the social media platform Truth Social. The United States President announced that he was raising the tariff on China even further to 125%, immediately effect. Also, at some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of the ripping of the economy of the United States and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable, Trump wrote. For other countries, though, the billionaire has also appeared to apply a salve of tariff wounds, announcing a 90-day pause on the tariffs over the baseline universal rate of 10%, asserting that over 75 countries had tried to negotiate with the United States and not retaliated to the tariffs in any way, shape or form. Trump also said that he has authorized the 90-day pause, also effective immediately. The lack of the retaliation by the countries, he insisted, was a result of his strong suggestion. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury and the USTR, that is the United States Trade Representative, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barrier, tariff, currency manipulation and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, as my strong suggestion, retaliated in any shape or form against the United States. I have authorized a 90-day pause and a subsequently lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter, the United States President wrote. India has taken a cautious approach to the Trump's tariff despite a 26% additional levy announced last week, and emphasized that a bilateral trade deal with the United States is in the works. Also on the 3rd, we had a detailed press release issued by the Ministry of Commerce in which India's position was made clear. We are studying the implication of the tariffs that have been announced, Ministry of External spokesperson Ranveer Jaiswal said on Wednesday. The plan of India and of the United States to work together to advance the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor could also give a shot in the arm for the Indian foreign trade, which is growing at a rate much below the potential and often turns to be drag on its GDP. The facility would also help boost trade efficiency and reduce logistical cost. To be sure that the transport time between the Asia and Europe is expected to come down significantly. Also, the alternative route for the global trade, which will also test the supply chain security, the IMEEC, is vital for the bilateral interest, enhancing strategic supply chains and boosting security in economic, energy and health sector across India, Europe and the Middle East. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said earlier in the week, after reviewing the project with the French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron, that we agreed to work together to help build one of the greatest trade routes in all the history. It will also run from India to Israel to Italy and onwards to the United States, connecting our partners by port, railway and undersea cables. Many undersea cables, United States President Donald Trump said after a meeting with Modi in the Washington. His remarks also said that Modi, under the IMEC and I2U2 initiative, India will work together on an economic corridor and connectivity infrastructure. It is a big development and a lot of money is going to be spent. We have already spent some and we are going to be spending a lot more in order to stay advanced, stay the leader, Trump said. I2U2 is a strategic partnership between India, Israel and United Arab Emirates and the United States. Also, it is known as the West Asian Quad. An MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding on IMEC, was signed by India, United States, Saudi Arabia, UAE, European Italy, France and Germany. The United States is a key driver of the IMECC initiative and is being considered as a tool to counter China's Belt and Road initiative that seeks to connect Asia, Africa and Europe by land and sea. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called on citizens to participate in the Navkar Mahamantra Divas held at the Vigyan Bhavan in the New Delhi on Wednesday, April 9. A day before the auspicious occasion of the Mahavir Jayanti, the event aims to promote spiritual unity and ethical awareness through the collective chanting of one of the Jainism's most revered mantras. In the post on the social media platform, the ex-Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 9th of April, a day before the auspicious occasion of the Mahavir Jayanti, I will be attending a very unique program with a distinctly global imprint, the Navkar Mahamantra Divas, which will be held at the Vigyan Bhavan in Delhi. People from over 108 nations will be in the program, which will witness a global chant for peace, unity and spiritual awakening. Highlighting the essence of the Navkar Mahamantra, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the sacred chant embodies the core values of Jainism, including spirituality, humility, non-violence and brotherhood. It is means to calm the inner peace. Also, the Navkar Mahamantra rises above all divisions and has a strong uniting ability, he said. I look forward to the program day after and I urge you all to take part, chant and celebrate the bonds that unite us. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the Navkar Mahamantra is not just a mantra, it is a center of our faith and its importance is just not spiritual but also enlightening. It also shows the path to everyone from self to society. I can still feel the spiritual power of the Navkar Mahamantra within me. A few years ago, I witnessed a similar collective chanting event in Bangalore and today I experienced that same feeling once again. I was born in Gujarat, a land where the influence of Jainism is visible in every street. Even during my childhood, I had the opportunity to be in the presence of the Jain Acharyas. The Navkar Mahamantra is not just a mantra, it is the center of our faith. When we chant the Navkar Mahamantra, we bow to the 108 divine virtues. We remember humanity itself. The mantra reminds us that meditation and action guide our lives. The Guru is the light, and the right path is the one that emerges from our soul. The Navkar Mahamantra teaches us to believe in ourselves, begin our own journey, and the mantra also tells us that the enemy is not going anywhere else, it lies within ourselves. Also, Navkar Mahamantra Divas is observed as a spiritual gathering to celebrate harmony, compassion, and self-awareness. The mantra pays homage to enlightened being and encourages reflection on values such as pure self-purification, also the non-violence and collective well-being. Rooted in the teaching of the Jain philosophy, it aims to foster unity across diverse communities. The event precedes Mahavir Jayanti, which falls on the April 10th this year. The festival marks the birth anniversary of the Lord Mahavir, the 24th Tirthankar of the Jainism, who was born in the 615 BC into a royal family and named Vardhaman. Now bringing you latest updates on today's market trends. Global equity markets suffered steep losses today, with the major indices across the North and the South America experiencing a broad sell-off between the heightened investor anxiety. In the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted 2,231 points or 5.50, closing at 38,000. Also, while the S&P 500 dropped 5.97% to reach 5,000, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq tumbled 5.82% to reach 15,000. The sharp decline reflects growing concern over the combination of factors, including the inflationary pressures, interest rate uncertainty, and potential earning disappointments. The Russell 2000, which tracks the smaller cap company stocks, was also hit hard, falling to 4.37% to 1,827. In the stark contrast, this SBCOE, the volatility index, the VIX index, often referred to as the market fear gauge, surged 50.93% to 45.31%, its highest spike in months, signaling a dramatic increase in the market volatility and the risk aversion. The investor appeared to be rapidly shifting out of the equities and into the safer asset or hedging their portfolios in anticipation of further turbulence. The sell-off extended beyond the United States border. The Canadian markets were deeply in the red, with the S&P TSX Composite Index falling 4.69% and the S&P TSX 60 down 4.44%, reflecting a widespread retreat from the risk across the sectors, including the energy, finance, and materials. Also, the Latin America markets also faced significant pressures. Brazil Bovespa index sank nearly 2.96%, losing over 3,800 points, while the Chile's S&P IPSA and Mexico's S&P BMV IPC dropped 2.79% and 4.87% respectively. Today's market action underscores rising unease among investors who are grappling with the tightening of the financial conditions, geopolitical tension, and a general loss of the confidence in near-term economy stability. With the VIX spiking sharply and the key global indices shedding billions in the market value, sentiment has clearly shifted into a defensive mode. Also, the coming days will be critical in determining whether this is a short-term correction or the start of a deeper, more prolonged downturn. Commodity market reflected a day of divergence, with the significant movement observed across the energy, metal, and agriculture sectors. Energy commodity faced strong headwinds, leading to days losses. WTI crude oil declined by 2.15% to settle at $60.66, while Brent crude oil dropped 2.21% to reach $64. These declines come amid the persistent concern about slowing economic activity, reduced financial fuel demand, and increasing inventories in the major consuming areas. Also, the additional geopolitical tensions and the uncertainty surrounding the OPEC Plus production strategies continue to weigh heavily on the investor sentiment in the energy space. Natural gas followed the suit, slipping 1.64% to reach $3. Though still with a relatively stable range, it remains vulnerable to seasonal demand shifts and fluctuating storage data. In contrast, the metal segment painted a more optimistic picture. Gold advanced 1.10% to reach reach $3,000 and also maintaining its strong position near the upper end of the 52-week range. Investors appear to be rotating into the safe haven assets amid mounting concern over the inflationary pressures, currency volatility, and the broader macroeconomic instability. Silver posted the strongest gain of the day among the tracked commodities, jumping 4.57% to reach $3057. The sharp rise may also reflect increased industrial demand as well as renewed interest from investors seeking diversification away from the equities and fiat currencies. Also, agricultural commodities also showed resilience, with the soya bean inching up 1.07% to reach $9.88. The modest rise suggests continued global demand and the potential supply constraints due to the weather-related disruption in the key economic growing regions. The commodity is hovering close to the higher end of the 52-week range, indicating relative strength in the agricultural sector. Overall, today's performance illustrates a contrast between the declining energy prices and the upward momentum seen in the metal and agriculture. Market participants appear to be repositioning their portfolios in the anticipation of the economic shift, possibly favoring hard assets and essential over the cyclical commodities tied closely to the growth and the consumption of the countries. As the volatility continues to define market dynamics, commodity will likely remain a focal point for both hedging strategies and speculative plays in the day ahead. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen to America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Now let's look at some sports highlights. Double Olympic medalist PV Sindhu made a winning start to the Badminton Asia Championship with a straightforward game win over the Esther Nurumi Wardoyo of the Indonesia in the women's singles, while the Lakshya Sen made an early exit from the men's single draw in the Ningpo, China on the Wednesday. The 29-year-old world number 17 PV Sindhu won 21-15, 21-19 in the 44 minutes against the 19-year-old Wardoyo that was ranked 36th. Also, Sindhu will be up against the world number 4 and the 3rd seed Akane Yamaguchi of the Japan in the pre-quarterfinals on the Thursday. Meanwhile, 2020 World Championship bronze medalist Sen dished out a lackluster performance against the Li Chiahao of the Chinese Taipei, a finalist at the All England Championships, to lose 18-12-1 and 10-12-1 in the first round. Earlier in the day, the HS Prannoy also made an early exit as he lost to Zhou Guanglu of China in the men's single opening round. Prannoy, who wasn't have been in his best form since suffering a bout of the chikungunya, lost to his Chinese opponent 16-21, 21-12, 11-21 in a round of 32 matches. Kiran George, however, made it to the quarter-final with a 21-16, 21-8 win over the Dmitry Panarin of the Kazakhstan in the 35 minutes. In the women's singles, Akarishi Kashyap, also Anupa Upadhyay, Malvika Basod also lost their respective matches to the crash for the tournament out. While the Akarishi lost to the world number 3 Han Yu of China 13-21, 7-21 in the 31 minutes, Anupama also was beaten by the world number 13 and 8 seed Ratchanak Intakon of the Thailand 13-21, 14-21. Also Bansod was beaten by Gao Fangji of China 14-21 and 8-21. Djokovic, a two-time winner of the event, made 29 unforced errors compared to his 18 winners in the subdued start to the 37-year-old clay court season, resulting in a 6-3, 6-4 defeat. Also, the record 24-time men major champion had won the last 10 matches he had contested on clay, including his run to the Olympic gold in the July. But the Chilean Tabilo, who beat the Djokovic on the surface at the Italian Open 11 months ago, also replicated that the surprise victory to reach the third court was there, and I expected myself at least to have put in a decent performance. Not like this. It was horrible, Serbia's Djokovic said. Also, I did not have any high expectations. I knew I'm going to have a tough opponent. I knew that also I'm going to probably play pretty bad, but this bad I didn't expect. I was hoping it was not going to happen, but it was quite of a high of a hope and the probability that I'm going to play this way. I horribly feeling that this play was not enough. Just sorry for all the people that have witnessed this. Earlier on Wednesday, Carlos Alcaraz also rallied to a comeback victory over the Francisco in the 21-year-old first clay match of the season. Spanish world number 3 Alcaraz also was unable to match Argentine also in the first set, but dominated thereafter, winning 12 of the last 13 games for a 3-6, 6-0, 6-1 victory. Norwegian 4th seed Casper Ruud beat the Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut 6-2, 6-1 to reach the third round, while the Russian 7th seed Andrei Rublev overcame the Frenchman Gaël Monfils 6-4, 7-6 in the 7-2 round. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel Millennium News 24. You can also watch us on Android and iOS devices now, as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium News on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News Channel 24.